Hello, and welcome to another episode of Key.io Bite-Sized Bits. My name is Luke Summerfield, and today I'm giving you some tips on how to deal with getting so much email. So you can see I'm talking pretty close to the mic. I am in Tel Aviv, Israel, on the beach here. Beautiful, beautiful place, beautiful people, beautiful food. Giving a talk here and thought I'd record a couple tips here on email. So one of the first things I want to mention is that why do we want to limit the email we get? Well, the first thing I want you to think about is that we have two different modes of work. We have reactive and proactive. Reactive being that as things are coming in at us, we are responding to them. And proactive meaning we pick out those big, meaningful things that we want to tackle, and we go after those things. So for many of you that are listening, you probably know which one is ultimately more productive in getting towards your goals. It's the proactively going out and being hungry about attacking those big rocks, those big goals that we want to achieve. And the problem is that email pulls us into that reactive nature where we're constantly reacting to other people. And so we want to limit that as much as possible. It's not that that's a bad thing. We, of course, for collaboration, for moving things forward, for setting things up, we, of course, need email as a big part of that. But there's a time and place for it, and it's too often we get sucked into that. So how do we handle this barrage of emails that we get? Well, I'll tell you what I found successful for me, and hopefully some of these tips can work for you. So the first thing is just going through and decluttering. I just finished reading up the magic of decluttering and tidying up, which is a beautiful book, and it goes through and talks about only holding on to those things that bring you complete joy. So when you go through and you look at what email lists are you subscribed to, what coupons are you getting, what newsletters, go through that list of items and only think about which one of these things gives you complete joy. Don't think about which one should I eliminate, rather which ones do you absolutely need to keep, and everything else is automatically gone. So spend some time going through, unsubscribing, getting rid of a lot of that clutter, and just tidying up those things that tend to fill up your inboxes, whether that's notifications from a wiki, from a company wiki, whether that's notifications from being on team reflectors, whether that's email newsletters, blog subscriptions, whatever that is. Second tip, live and die by setting up filters. So go in, invest the time in setting up as many possible filters as you can. Filters that will pull things out of your inbox, automatically tag them, put them in a folder. Typically I get from the unsubscribe thing, well, I can't unsubscribe. People say I can't unsubscribe from this team email list or this notification list. Well, then what you can do is you can set up a filter to make sure that you can check that on your own time versus having to check that on someone else's time. So set up filters so that you can pull all that stuff out of the inbox that isn't essential, that's kind of you can get to on your own time. Now, once you've done those first two steps, then dealing with the actual inbox itself. Well, I very much subscribe to the getting things done methodology, which there's a book written in, I don't know if that was 70s or 80s, that talks about getting things done. A lot of it is paper related, but you can apply the same framework to your email. And in the getting things done method, the first thing you want to do is anything that you can get done in under 2 minutes, just take care of it. Just get it off your plate. So when I look at my inbox every morning, or when I shouldn't say every morning, when I look at my inbox, when I check my email, I scan through and say, which one of these emails can I get done in under 2 minutes of a response? And I just go and take care of it. Just get it out and get on to new things. So I go through and do all that. Then I give it a scan, and I then created a tag called Respond Later. And a respond later is anything that needs to get responded to in the next 24 hours or within that day, but maybe isn't necessarily has to get responded to now. You know, of course, if you have emergencies, if you have things on fire and it takes longer than 2 minutes, you're going to have to take care of it. But many of the times, the things we think are actual immediate or important or emergencies actually in fact are not, and we actually don't need to get back to them right away. And so in that case, you tag them with a respond later, and that's going to dump into a folder. get pulled out of your inbox, get dumped in a folder that you can then proactively go and respond to on your own time, which we'll talk about in a minute. Now, the other tag that I'll put in there is situational tags. So if you look at your life, are there certain parts of your day that are better for responding to certain types of email? For example, I take the subway in and out of work every day. And on the subway, it can be very easy to hop on my phone and respond to certain things that I know I can do off my phone. There's, of course, email that I can't do on my phone because I need to be looking stuff up or things like that. So if there's, I will create a quote-unquote commute tag and tag anything that I want to respond to later in the day when I'm leaving the office or when I'm commuting into the office, and I will tag that. So that's my situational, and anytime I'm in that situation, you go through that. Could be other situations. Maybe you fly a lot, and during your flights, you can respond to things offline and do responses. You can tag them with that. Think about your own life and what situational area that you can tag things with, where you can work things. Okay, so first off, get things that you can respond to in under 2 minutes, done. Secondly, anything that can be responded in 24 hours, just tag respond later. Anything that is a better fit for a situation, tag with that situational tag. The next tag that I use, again, tags, pulls it out of your inbox, puts it in a folder, is anything that says when I have time. So when I have time are things that are not urgent and they're important, but they're not urgent. So if they're important but not urgent, that means I can get back to them in a day, in 2 days, in 3 days, in 5 days, in a week, and the world will not explode. Again, believe it or not, we think that a lot of those challenges that people expect to hear back from us very quickly. The reality is that we don't have to respond back to them that quickly. We just have that feeling like we have to. So anything that you could easily say, well, I could respond to them in 3 days, 5 days, and the world won't explode, I tag with respond when I have time. And lastly, I create one more filter that's kind of an automatic filter. So when an email comes in, what I end up doing is a lot of times I have ideas and I want to write a note down. So one of two things, I'm trying to move over to just putting it directly in Evernote. Sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. So instead what I've been doing is just sending myself an email. And in the subject line, I put 2 capital N's. And then whatever the note is after that. And then in my email, I create a filter that says anything that comes in with 2 capital N's, I want you to auto tag that as notes and put that into my notes folder, which then I can file later when I have time. And that just kind of helps keep that clutter of my own notes from filling up my own inbox. And then I can take care of it, of transferring that to Evernote when I can't have time. Now, if I can, I just put it directly in Evernote, but sometimes that's not the case if you're rushing around and just need to quick throw it in your thought pattern. All right, so under 2 minutes, take care of those. Anything that you need to respond to in the next 24 hours, click respond later. Anything that would be better for a certain situational tag that. Then say when I have time. Anything that can be done in the next 3 to 5 to week, tag that with when I have time. And anything that's a notes, set up an auto filter that pulls those into the notes folder. That is how you can effectively manage hundreds and hundreds of emails. Like I manage hundreds and hundreds of emails and not get totally overwhelmed. I think when we see that giant list of things, if we don't go through that prioritization, we get a lot of anxiety and we don't know where to start. But doing this as a step one of just dealing with it is a great way to have less anxiety and be easier to tackle those things. So now that we've organized all the email, the last few tips I have here before we go is then from what I do from there is I book off 1 hour every day, and I do that typically right after lunch. So I like to keep the mornings with heads down work, that proactive work. That's when my mind, and most of studies have shown that most people's minds work best for that kind of proactive heads down work. And then right after lunch, I'm kind of need to get back in the groove. Anything after lunch, I do an hour where I can go through and respond to that respond later email. I can also, if I get through that respond email, then I can go to when I have time. Now, that's every day for an hour. and then that way I'm proactively spending my time. I'm doing email on my time versus reactively doing it when emails are coming in. And outside of that, I try and keep my email closed the whole rest of the day, which is extremely difficult, but there are blocking programs where you can block certain websites. The one I'm using currently is called Focus, and during that specific time you can block out Gmail or block out Outlook or 365 or whatever you're using so that you can't even access it, along with social networks and all that other stuff. So in addition to that, what I typically find is that I usually push off doing email. I'm really bad about email, and so even those 1 hour blocks sometimes get booked over, get deleted. I book them over with a more important meeting, or I just simply have too much email that I don't get to all those respond when I have time. So once a week, I have a little bit longer of a period, usually on Saturdays or Sundays, over coffee or over wine, is going through and spending an hour and a half, 2 hours, just cleaning up anything I didn't get to within that week, and that's usually when I do those when I have time. Again, those are anything that's important but not urgent. Anything that's urgent and important, that's the respond later, and anything that's not important and not urgent just gets put into just whenever I get to it, and most of the time I just don't, because if it's not important and it's not urgent, why even bother outside of just the courtesy, but which is always nice, but sometimes it just isn't possible. Okay, so my last pro tip that I have here is that when I do have a big heads down project, or when I'm traveling, or it's not even when I'm traveling, it's when I have a heads down project. So recently I was working on an ebook, 5,000 word ebook. It was a lot to write. I had a deadline to get it done. And so I set up an away message, and I just said, hey, I'm heads down working on a big project right now. I'm going on an email diet. I'm only responding to absolute emergencies. Otherwise, plan on hearing back in the next 7 to 10 days. Hope you understand, appreciate your patience. And I set that up as an away message, and just setting the expectation like, hey, I have big important things that I need to get done. I need to stay focused, and I think anyone who's emailing you will appreciate that and understand that. And honestly, I learned it from seeing other people do it and saying, hey, that's pretty smart. I need to do that as well. So that's a good pro tip. Then every once in a while, also when you have those when I have times, or sometimes during the email diet, there is an important one that you feel like you're letting the person hang. Worst case, just shoot them a quick, I just do this with a template. I use HubSpot sales tool. We used to call it Signals, then we called it Sidekick, and now we call it HubSpot Sales. And you can put in templates. And I just have a template set up that says, hey, I just wanted to send you a quick note. I received your email, but I'm heads down working on a project. I appreciate your patience. I want to respond to it. Just give me a few minutes. I didn't forget about you. And that can be another email after that initial autoresponder if it ends up being a week to 10 days before you get back to someone and you want to just poke them and give them a little reminder that, hey, I didn't forget about you. So anyway, those are a bunch of my monkey brain rambling here of how I deal with all the email. I absolutely hate email. I guess the other pro tip I have is try and get out of email as much as possible and move into things like Slack. I'm using Slack at HubSpot and with some of my other projects, and it helps keep the conversation there. Again, with Slack, you can get sucked into it just as much as email, so you have to be good about how to prioritize that, and maybe that's a topic for another day. So appreciate you listening. Hopefully there's some good nuggets there. If you have any other ideas, put them in the comments section below. And I'll give you one more snapshot of the beach here for those of you who are seeing the YouTube. We got the sun setting in the background. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful here. And hope you enjoyed this Key.io bite-sized bits. Make sure you subscribe to either the podcast or the YouTube channel if you enjoyed this for more bite-sized bits, and leave us a review to let us know how we're doing. All right, we'll talk to you later. Cheers.